Yo, what's going on everybody? My name is Dominic and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1977 Japanese horror film House. If that sounds interesting, let's get right into the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dominic from the channel Dominic Talks Movies, and if you love movies just as much as I do, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because you can unsubscribe at any time if you want to, and it helps out my channel tremendously, so I would really appreciate if you guys could subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. Now today I'm going to be reviewing the 1977 horror comedy film House from 1977, directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi. I hope I'm not completely butchering that, but with that being said, let's get straight into my review. Now, I really wanted to start off by saying, while I think this is technically a pretty terrible movie, I did have the thought going through that this was intentional and it was kind of something to be played off for laughs since it's technically a horror comedy film. And that was confirmed when I posted my Letterboxd review. If you don't follow my Letterboxd, the link is always in the description of my videos. That from a few people, they commented, they said the point is kind of to be wacky, over the top, goofy, and really not very well made to kind of play it off for laughs, because that was sort of the whole thing with the film. Is I didn't find much of it very funny at all, so I was like, why is this a horror comedy? But I found it laughably bad with filmmaking terms, so maybe I was like, maybe that is what the comedy is about. A lot of people said that they agree with me, and that's sort of the point, so that part has definitely grown on me a little bit. But I still think this is a film that as a whole I don't necessarily enjoy. It is definitely crazy, over the top, and a film that I definitely feel like I would enjoy more kind of laughing at the absurdity of it all with a bunch of friends. But watching this alone and trying to take this as a film that I didn't really know was supposed to be this stupid was definitely jarring and something that I wasn't expecting. I said this in my Letterboxd review that this quite possibly could be the worst movie I've ever seen from a technical standpoint, and I still stand by that. It is very, very poorly made. And as I said, that's not necessarily a negative anymore, because that's sort of part of the charm of it and why it's so funny, because it's just laughably terrible. And I think that actually kind of is a positive at this point, now that looking back at it. I also felt like the absurdity of it all and the whole kind of whimsical vibe that it gave off was very dreamlike and had a very, very unique tone to it that I thought was very well executed, and something that was pretty unique to this film in terms of horror movies that I've seen so far. So that was definitely something that I was honestly very impressed by, and I said that I can definitely see why this could be one of someone's favorite horror movies because of this. And I thought that part of the film was very, very well executed and just really well done in general, because I really was feeling this movie the whole time, and the whole vibe that this film gave me was exactly what I think it was going for. However, I do think at points it goes a little bit over the top, like even in terms of how crazy this movie actually is. I was kind of partway through, I would say about 20 minutes in, I was kind of getting used to how crazy this movie was, but then at points it even exceeded that, and I think at some points it was definitely too crazy. And I feel like while the whole kind of thing is to just absolutely be in awe of the crazy absurdity of this film that is just absolutely bonkers, I feel like at a point it gets a little tedious to watch, and it's a little bit kind of overwhelming. It felt pretty repetitive and one-noted to an extent, and after a while it got a little tiring to watch for sure. But going back to the sort of atmosphere and the vibe of this film, I think the cinematography and some of the VFX in this movie, as well as the score, allowed it to have this sort of whimsical nature to it. So there are some positives in terms of the technicalities of the movie. However, there are many negatives, even in terms of just not being the point, you know, because at a certain point you have to realize that even though that it is kind of, that's the objective of the film, is to be so crazy and stupid that it's funny, at a point I just got tired of it, and I started to notice these things that maybe are what was intended for the movie, but to me they just stood out as something really not super appealing. The film was poorly paced. I felt really dragged at points in the middle, and it just had some extra stuff kind of packed in that I felt like was not necessary or was just not interesting enough for me to care. The acting wasn't good at all, and the characters were very surface level and baseline. Not really any nuance to them whatsoever, so it was hard for me to kind of care for these characters, and when stuff happened, I simply just couldn't give less of a crap about these characters because of how one-noted and bland they are. As well as same thing with the plot. Again, plot was very baseline, not much nuance to it. It was very one-noted throughout the entire movie, and something that wasn't, you know, it was not so simple that it kind of left room for exploration with films like Playtime, or even like a Ghibli film like My Neighbor Totoro, which have such little plot, but the whole film is kind of exploring, in Playtime's case, exploring Paris, exploring all these gadgets, and kind of traveling along with Monsieur Hulot as he discovers all of this stuff. Same sort of thing with My Neighbor Totoro, just exploring this amazing world, where in this, the plot was a little more than that, but it wasn't complex enough for me to kind of see it as a very cool or investing or even complex story at all. And so it was kind of right in that middle mark where it was just a super mediocre story that it had a story, but it just wasn't good at all. And for it being a comedy slash horror movie, I didn't find any of the actual jokes to be funny, and I didn't find anything to be particularly scary. So I think in terms of the genres it was kind of attending to, I don't think it really accomplished too much in those fields in terms of the actual film. And overall, this is just an extremely stupid, cheesy, absurd mess of a film that at the same time I actually had a pretty great time with, and I really admire this film for being as over the top and wonky as it was. It is growing on me a little bit because I've come to terms with the fact that a lot of the filmmaking choices were actually intentional to kind of get a laugh out of the audience for being so terrible, but I still overall couldn't get fully behind this film, even though I did like it. Overall, I'm going to have to give House a 64%. Not a terrible grade by any means, but not a film that I'd necessarily rewatch again unless it was with a group of friends, just to laugh at how stupid this movie actually is. And that is my review for the 1977 horror comedy film House from Japan. And if you guys enjoyed, definitely make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. As I said, you can unsubscribe at any time if you want to. Also, check out my social medias. The links will be in the description, and also join my Discord server because right now it is very dead, and I would really appreciate if you guys could join that, and we'll have a great time talking movies in there. But that is basically it for the video, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.
Everybody needs you, so you can make everybody equal.